Welcome everyone to another bite-sized branding live show. Thank you everyone for joining us on another Friday afternoon, ready for drinks and to cut out for the week. I know we all have parties to go to in our houses during lockdown. Not going very far. I'd like to welcome Grant. Grant, always joining us on the show. Thank you very much, mate. And a very special guest of ours, Denver. Denver has an awesome array of experience, and I met him through an event and through a general network. And I thought I had to have this guy on the show. I love what he's doing. I like that he's working with substantial brands and helping them with that digital transformation process. So I want to get him on the show and share some of his insights through his experience. I'll throw it to you, Denver, in a little bit. But first off, Grant, give everyone a little insight on what the show is all about.
Hi, everyone. Well, my name is Grant Thom, and I'm known in the industry as a head fire starter. And what that means is I take people's ideas, I get them launched, I get them escalated to points of premium profitability with a view that one day you can sell to your customers, to partners, to shareholders, to competitors. But more than anything then today, it's about Denver and Denver's expertise. So the show is all about us talking about our expertise, our passion, and we normally unbundle it with 5 minutes or less. As we have a guest, we give him 2 extra minutes to butt in and give his point of view. And at the same time, we give them a hard time as well. But having said that, it's all about having fun. It's all about having passion. So let's get started with Denver. So what's going to be the first question there, Bernard?
Man, I didn't tell him that we're going to give him a hard time. I don't think he would have agreed to come on the show if we're
that's why I had to know we're on the show now. We have to now.
It's too late. It's too late. He can't cut out now.
Too late.
Could you imagine? He just shuts.
Yeah, he's nervous. He's got to be nervous.
Man, before we launch into anything else, it'll be great for you to kind of introduce yourself. Give us and the listeners a bit of an idea of your background, things you've been working on recently, just so they get a feel of obviously your expertise and insights. Take it away.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you, Bernard and Grant, for having me on the show. It's I've watched the show a couple of times. It's great. Cool. So yeah, thrilled to be here. So both
awesome,
thumbs up.
Thanks.
You've made it. You've made
it. Definitely. Look, yeah, a little bit about myself. I've been in the marketing industry for the last 8 years or so. So my particular experience lies in the digital media space. So working with a whole range of brands, understanding what they're trying to do in the media space, but then also accelerate their digital performance. So that might be discovering new environments that they've never invested in before. So with the rate of change at the moment that's happening in the digital space, that's more important to have someone that has an understanding of what the technical aspects are when they're investing or trialing new environments. So I sort of work in that space where I work with a lot of brands and sort of advise them on what the best strategy is to invest their money in.
Yeah.
And I saw some like media buying experience. Did I read that right?
Yes, that's right. So yeah, most of my 8 years have been spent at media agencies. So working at a media agency, you work on a whole range of clients and many verticals. So that gives you the flexibility, but also the exposure to how different industries think and some of the challenges that they face. So it gives me that experience is invaluable because you start to stitch one idea. You can start to blend and bring one idea from one industry into another and potentially help shape a way of clients thinking as well. All for the benefit of the client. So yeah, in my roles, I've always tried to make sure that anything that I put forward is delivering on business outcomes.
Man, I know we've got some pre-prep questions, but now I'm even more excited about asking them because I'm like, oh God, I want to know more about this particular bit. You know, look, let's launch into it.
Stick to the script. Stick to the script.
We'll go just put them through the gauntlet now. The first question we had was all about, and I think it kind of lends itself to your, very much so to your experience, all about how does a business prep itself for that digital initiative? And I know you have that bigger business exposure because of both your corporate experience or agency side experience and now your independent experience. it would be great to kind of get your insights around how even those businesses prepare themselves, or how you prepare those businesses for investing into that digital space. Are you ready to go?
Let's get going.
Let me hit that clock. Boom. Cool.
Cool. So one of the first things that I think digital or businesses should consider is the role of their customer. Customer is the fundamental and basically the lifeblood of any business. So moving into a digital space, you've got to think about what the customer experience will be like. I think that's really important. The other things to consider is the internal processes and technology that you're going to be adopting. So if you're wanting to go into the digital space, you've got to partner with the right technology partners.
Yeah.
That you can lean on their experience. They can also then sort of take you through their journey or their viewpoint of the world. But at the same time, you're on that journey with them, and you learn more about a particular topic that you didn't know about. So there's a couple of things there. The other thing I think is having everyone within the business aligned on that initiative, and having that clear vision going, look, this is what we want to move to, and having those short-term goals, but also translating it into a medium-term and a long-term goal, and having reviews on a frequent basis. I think that's really important. I think that's sort of not necessarily just purely for any digital initiatives, but general in business as well. So I think that process doesn't necessarily change. I guess it's when you're trying to do something specific within the digital space, it's really partnering with the right people, and that can take time.
And would you say it's all type of businesses that should take on this approach? What do you say is the right profile for a company to say we need to take this digital slant?
There's no silver bullet. I think the three of us know that there's no silver bullet. I think you've got to, as an individual business, have your own individual priorities. So I think last year we saw 7 years or 8 years worth of digital change in the space of 3 months, where a lot of businesses didn't really prioritize digitizing their business, and they had to pivot very quickly. So I think it being a digital, I guess, native, I always think that digitizing and automating processes, but also understanding how digital media works is extremely important now that technology is so what's the word I'm looking for? So advanced.
It's relevant. It's transpiring.
Of course, and it's always evolving. So for me, that needs to be at least top 2 or 3 priorities, in line with other business initiatives, whether it be order management or financial accountability or financial goals or staff goals. I think it's all interrelated, but definitely it should be in the top 3.
Do you think that companies are commanding as well? Do you think that they're commanding that businesses transform as well?
I think the business customers are. You look at industries, how they've changed over the last 5 years, but even new businesses and startups taking center stage. You look at the buy now, pay later industry. That's Afterpay. The Afterpay CEO, one of the youngest billionaires in Australia. He's sort of leading the charge in an industry that was maybe 5 years ago unheard of. Very much so unheard of. And now you've got, I think, Commonwealth Bank launching their buy now, pay later.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Oh, wow. I know there's two business ones. There's BizPay and SelectPay, which are like a similar concept, but for business invoices. So you then split it over like 4 monthly payments or 6 monthly payments and that kind of thing, which I think is, again, another revolution in the space, especially in the corporate and the commercial space, because there's
about 6 that are playing in the space at the moment.
Wow.
Yeah, it's revolutionary, and that's just one example. And the other example, I think going back to your question, Grant, it's the customer that decides, the customer base that decides how and where the business moves.
And if you don't stay up to trend, then they will go and buy from someone else because it'll be more convenient for them. So therefore, if you're not staying up to speed, therefore it's making it difficult.
Of course, if you're not adapting toward what consumers are doing, you're going to be left behind. And as a business, if you don't adapt to you're just going to be left behind. Look at Blockbuster, for example.
Blockbuster, look at Kodak. It's called seamless transactions. It's all about making the purchase as quick and as smooth as possible without hiccups and hassles.
Of course, yeah.
And Denver, a question. One thing that we often see with quite a few businesses that we work with, and you kind of touched on it lightly before as well, is that there's a bit of a disconnect between that kind of end-to-end touch point with the customers. Like marketing runs a campaign, sales is not really understanding or aligned to that campaign, and then the service or delivery department doesn't understand the expectations of what the customer is going to look for as being part of that, being part of that touch point. There's a lead into the business, and then it sets an expectation for the customer. Is that something that you've noticed in the businesses that you've worked with, that it's often kind of left to the wayside or forgotten in the process, or is that kind of key to what you do with each of the businesses that you work with?
More recently, that's been a bigger focus in my role. So earlier on was more around media strategy and media buying. We never really discussed around. We never really talked to our clients around different departments. More recently, now working at a business where I've got that exposure, it's very important, because you need to have an understanding of what the left hand and the right hand are doing to achieve a common goal. And that's what I'm seeing that's really happening.
And to get the team on board, of course.
Of course, you need clear vision.
Yeah.
It's about to chime. It's like literally the perfect timing. Cut.
Done.
That was cool. I think it's this is where Grant usually cheats a little bit, and he'll do like a 5-minute wrap up. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, let me help you out a little bit. I think this subject matter is so intense, it's so broad, it's so vast, that it's not something that you can actually sum up in 7 minutes. I think we've literally done a helicopter view as to what you should be thinking about, how you should be staying relevant with a view to make sure that you are applicable to your target audience and your customers.
Yeah. I think one of the greatest takeaways was just that last little bit, which we kind of unraveled a little bit more, which is when you're running a digital campaign, think of it as instead of just like, we're running a campaign, which is really like separate and devoid from the rest of the business, how it actually touches on every other part of the business, and with the customer as the key focus on that. Like that, they are the center point, and everything else needs to work congruently around it. We've experienced that in the past, where it's kind of like, let's do this campaign because we just need to get exposure, or we need to get this information out, or this, or bring more customers in. But they don't think about the impact to the business. And what ends up happening is they don't have the serviceability, or they don't have the understanding of what that campaign means for the business as a whole. And then they end up just kind of burning their reputation in the process.
Yeah, 100%.
It's cool to see that changing. Sorry? No, you're 5 minutes. Shut up, man. Hey, just a random aside though, do you think that COVID and the lockdown situation has kind of provoked people to be more invested in that whole process, rather than just going, okay, we need to launch a campaign, let's run a campaign?
Yeah, COVID has shown that the economy is susceptible to almost anything, and I think businesses are starting to be more strategic with their investments. Not that they weren't strategic before, but I guess the fact that money isn't, or business funds isn't an endless pot of gold, you have to be more accountable with the budgets that you're investing in, and even more so now that we're in lockdown and sitting.
Yeah,
again.
I like
certainly.
That.
I think COVID's accelerated a lot of things.
Yeah, I think it's a much more savvy way of approaching it. People kind of, I think the feel was more of like a spray and pray approach before, whereas now people, I like how you said accountable. People are more accountable for where that money's going, what's the overall intention, effect, strategy, etc. Cool. Well, enough on that. Enough on my 5 minutes.
There we go.
I'm going to get in trouble after this. Lucky that Grant's in Melbourne. He can't even get near me.
I'm either locked in or locked out.
Mate, if you're in Sydney, even still, you couldn't get at me because you wouldn't like. We'd have to be 5 minutes apart from each other, and you'd have to be my number one. You know. So the next question we had, which kind of comes off the last question as well, is all about digital channels. There are so many channels that people can put their money behind, invest into, build a strategy around, etc. It'll be nice to see your insights to what your experience has shown you around what channels are better for what kind of, whether it's products or services or information or positioning, etc. What are the better, like how have people used and leveraged the different platforms for different types of campaigns? Cool. Ready to go?
Yep.
Yeah, let's get going.
Could you imagine? I don't think anyone's ever asked for clarification on a question. Maybe once, actually. I think Chris, maybe on Chris's one. But anyway, no clarification.
No clarification. Makes sense.
Just jump in.
Before we look at environments, the two things would need to be clarified. What are the outcomes? Again, it goes back down to business outcomes. Out of this activity or environment that you're going to explore, what do you want to get out of it? So a business must ask themselves that question. It's not just we spray and pray. We don't want to do that. People need to be more accountable. Businesses need to be more accountable. But also the customer experience needs to be factored in as well. So before going into that first point is what do you want to get out of investing in that environment?
Yeah.
The other thing is understanding why people are in that environment. So, for example, I think Facebook is a very easy example that I could extrapolate on. And people go there to catch up with friends. People go there to connect with other people, connect with other businesses, but also stay in touch with what's happening around the world. So there's a multitude of reasons. And as a business, having an understanding of why people are going to that platform or environment and the experience that they want to have in that environment, it plays into the strategy there as well. YouTube is another example where people go there to watch videos. They go there to switch off. And there's a whole range of content on YouTube, whether it be professionally curated from some TikTok stars or replays of people watching computer game esports or computer game replays or just music. So there's a whole range, and people go there to relax, and understanding that people are leaned into that environment and watching video content allows you to then go, I can reach these people with the right message, but also with the right format as well. So when businesses are thinking about that, they have to think about the environment that they're advertising in. The other thing as well is that environment right for the brand? If it's you've got to think about how the brand is positioned in terms of how people see the brand. Is it a super luxurious brand? Is it a grungy brand? Is it a brand where they don't really care where they what environments they're in? So suitability versus the platform also plays a part. And those are kind of the three main things I'd start with. But also having an understanding of what's available within the platforms in terms of how you can target or segment your audiences, and what the value exchange is between those platforms. So again, going back to Facebook and YouTube, they dominate the digital space because they have so much information on their user base. And that user base is based on logged in information. So that's really valuable to businesses because they can understand if you're a male 30 plus or you're a male that likes sports, for instance. So that's really powerful for advertisers because then you can start to think about what message you want to send, you want to what message you want to communicate to them.
I think
So that's the other thing.
one of the things that you mentioned was that spray and pray, and I think that's very much in the sense of where people waste money, and therefore people can't afford to waste money anymore. I think one of the things from your media days, which will play a paramount role in the sense of repetition and targeting, because you want to build a multiple of messages over a period of time, because in today's fashion, it's not always about selling, it's about educating. So therefore is that whole play of telling that brand story along the way. So therefore, getting the investment on the correct platform to the right audience is very important.
Of course, I can't agree. You couldn't have said it any better.
Look, one thing that came up for me.
The word that we should use is called edutainment. We've got to educate, we've got to entertain. We've got to use this word every show because it is edutainment.
You said the word educate. You said the word educate, and I was like, what? He didn't say the word edutainment? I was all prepared for it. I was like, what is he going to say? Denver, one thing that's always kind of that comes up quite a lot, especially in the B2B world, is LinkedIn. And like the great thing about LinkedIn is how powerful the targeting is because of how much data they have on people. Right? You can go down to like the role that they play within a business or what they do within that role within a business. But there's still a lot of people, like there's still a lot of talk about how ineffective it still is. Like there just doesn't seem to be the same click-through rate that you get from other platforms. Have you experienced that? Like, have you had any touch points with LinkedIn and the advertising in that space?
Of course. I think LinkedIn's a very powerful platform. It's a great platform. I love it. I'm on it every day. I think the one thing is that when people are on the platform, it's a very professional led platform. So you've got to be really find that balance when you're advertising on that platform. You've got to make sure it's the right message because again, context plays a huge part into what people will remember, but also having an impact on goals. I think some brands might be a bit too hasty before they jump onto certain platforms. But I think one bit of advice I'd give to them is think about the context that the user is in that environment. So you can tailor a better message because you've got the targeting option available, but you've got to think about the context and what message you think they want to receive.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, they kind of take that same piece of content they put on Facebook and Instagram, and they use the same thing on LinkedIn. And you're like, especially with a lot of people doing those like really high energy, yelling at you kind of ads right now, where they're like, you can change your life, everything will be amazing for you. And you just in the LinkedIn content, like in the LinkedIn flow, it just doesn't feel like it's congruent. It feels really disjointed.
It's very, very disjointed. 100% agree.
There's a lot of informational videos that I find there that I'll stay on for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes to watch that entire piece of content because it's providing, it's very information based, and I feel like maybe that's where it leans towards in the damn you clock. That's what I find it kind of leans toward in LinkedIn, and also the research that I've seen on it is that a lot of people spend a lot more time on text based posts over image or video in LinkedIn as well. I don't know if that, and obviously this is more of a question rather than a statement, if it's because people are going there for that exact reason, to look for information, to look to be educated, to learn something, because it is a more professional platform.
Yeah, I think some of those things, I think it's down to user preference as well. Working with LinkedIn in the past, you can kind of get in previous roles. They've got the ability to tell you how and what type of content performs better on the platform. It's how the algorithm works as well. But then you can leverage that from an advertiser perspective. If you're a brand and you can utilize that message, whether it be a video or just a text or an image with some compelling text with it. So I think context plays a huge part, but always test different messages to understand what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I like that. Grant, did you want to say anything? I feel like he wrapped it up perfectly. So
I think he wrapped it up perfectly. I think that when you mentioned YouTube, I think YouTube is like the understated platform. It's the second biggest search engine to Google. It's very cost effective. You can really pinpoint your target audience. You only pay once they go past a certain amount of time. Video is becoming 40% of the communication channel. I just think that you can really create a lot of your success around YouTube, and then definitely benchmark all these other platforms to plug in with the view to create leverage off that. And I think it's a great tool.
You know where a lot of brands, I feel, failed with YouTube is they took their TVCs and they just ran them as a YouTube ad. And, you know, a TVC is just too long for that experience, you know, even with the skip button there, like you don't even get a message in before the skip button comes. I love the ads. There's a couple of ads I've seen where they jump in there like, this is what I'm going to tell you about. You got the skip button here now. If you want to know more, don't click the skip, you know, and before they start the messaging. And then that way you're like, okay, I'm in. Like, I do want to know about this thing. I'm not interested, whatever. And next, you know.
They're breaking down the fourth wall.
Hey, they're talking straight to you.
Yeah, exactly.
The fourth wall.
The fourth wall.
Now that's a discussion.
Maybe that's another show.
Yeah, another show. Awesome. Well, I really like that subject matter. That was definitely one where I felt like we could keep going for quite a bit longer on that one. It's lucky Denver wrapped it up, or else we would have been talking platform by platform.
Thank goodness we got a clock.
Yeah.
Now you know why we put it on.
So Denver, the last question and the most important question is the whole thing of hiring the correct professionals to come and do the work that is needed in order to get the best results. What is your understanding about, in our realm, the marketing realm, the digital realm, as to going about hiring the right professional to come in and assist business owners to get all the implementation that we've spoken about in the last 2 segments? So let's get started there, Bernard. Hit the clock there, buddy.
I will. Oh, Jesus. There we go. Are you happy now?
The value is priceless. If you get the right person in that fits in with the business culturally and professionally, that spurs them. Like technical skills aside, I think culture plays a big role as well. So if you're joining the right business for the right reasons, but the business is heading in the right direction as well in the terms of their growth projections or how they what they want to achieve in the short, medium, long term, that makes a huge difference, because that can change someone that is really good but has a poor attitude versus someone that is not as good but has a great attitude, because that way the attitude almost trumps the technical aspect. Having a professional certainly helps those conversations, and it goes back down to how a business prepares for digital transformation or upscaling in digital. You've got to have the right people that know what they're talking about, because if you don't, then it becomes a very costly exercise, protracted exercise, and it just takes too long to achieve anything within a reasonable time frame.
I think one of the things that's important when it comes to hiring a professional is to, first of all, that you've got the right chemistry with that particular person. So I think you've got to be able to sit down, have a conversation, and do they get your business? I think that's paramount. I think the second thing is most important is to have a look at the history of the work that they've done, with the view that, does that correlate for you? Does that have impact for you? And does it show the results that they're talking about? And the third thing is, how do you test it with the view to ensure that these are the right professionals to bring into your business in order to steer you on the right track? What would your advice be about testing a professional before engaging fully with it?
I think it depends on the recruitment process. I think, some businesses, it's a very straightforward. You've got your first, second round interview, and then potentially a presentation to the senior management team or the hiring manager. Others, you sort of jump through hoops and you get through one interview, and then you get a group interview, and then 3-4 interviews later, 2 months down the track, you don't really know where you sit. I'm talking about two extremes here, but most businesses sort of tend to sit in between. I think that's certainly a vetting stage, the recruitment stage. And then I think the other protection business side is the probation period. 3 or 6 month period typically is when you find out if the person that you've hired is, whether it be within the business or a third party, whether it be part of that contract clause. That's effectively that when you find out if they're good or not, because someone can, it happens unfortunately, but someone can blitz an interview, but then when they get to starting the actual work, suddenly those skills aren't there. So I think it's having a robust recruitment process, I think, is really key.
What like have you hired somebody within any of the spaces that you've been in, and what are the key things that you look for when you're bringing on somebody to collaborate with?
Yeah, definitely. First thing I look for is, like Grant says, their previous history, what kind of work they've achieved, what accomplishments have they done, and the other thing that I look at as well is compatibility, the cultural fit within the team, one-on-one compatibility, how they communicate. I think it's really important in these situations, especially now that we're all locked down, but we're in virtual environments, and being able to communicate effectively and timely is a key trait. The other thing I think is initiative as well. You're not going to have someone tell you what to do all the time. So you've got to be able to, you got to show that initiative and sort of find solutions by yourself. And sometimes you're going to be left by yourself to figure out something, and it's not ideal, but you've got to be able to have the tool set, the skill set, and the curiosity to ask the right questions, so you can get what you need to get done, but also, show your bosses and show your team that you're the right person for the job.
So if I had to flip that on the head for a second and say, well, then from a professional's perspective, what kind of customers do you like working with? What's, what kind of businesses do you like working with?
That's a great question. Now you put me on the spot there.
That's what you do.
Say the ones that you're working with right now.
Yeah, they're the ones that I work with right now. No, I like, for me, consumer behavior is always changing. So I always like a business that is moving in the right direction, that growth phase, because they're always willing to try new things. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'd leave it. I don't want to say anything else that might incriminate me.
Customers that are brave enough to try something with the view to venture out and communicate their value. Yeah,
but at the same time, they've got goals that they want to achieve. So it's not necessarily being brave, but they go, we want to move into this space, or we know that we have to invest more, or we know that this is an area that we want to increase our investment in.
It's important to them, yeah.
Yeah. I want to be aligned and working with businesses where they want to effectively make that a better part of their business.
Fantastic. Yep.
Man, I've got 23 seconds. Somebody fill it. No.
So one of the things that I think is paramount is that at the end of the day, everybody becomes winners in a digital platform, because it is about complementation, making sure that messages is carried consistently over multiple platforms to bring about call to action, in the sense that the client is the winner.
Yeah.
Mate, that was a perfect fill for 23 seconds, Grant. I think what's kind of really cool about this whole thing, and something that came to mind, is that it's not a silver bullet, right? There's no one surefire way of getting into this and then just blitzing it. There are definitely unicorns out there that have, people have dabbled in the space and then come out really, really successful. I think the misnomer is that a lot of people experience is they go, well, I threw $200 at Google Ads and I got nothing for it. And then they decide that's it, it's done. The whole digital space is ruined for them. I think there's, as much as it is getting the right professional on board as it is putting the money in the right channel, and measuring it with some kind of key goal or KPI or measurable that you can then say, yes, this was either successful or not successful. Maybe we need to change our tact. Maybe we need to change our targeting. Maybe we need to change platform. And I think a lot of people just get in, they dip their toe and then go, that was enough for me, you know?
Yeah. Look, I think Denver, it's been fantastic having you on the show. And I think one of the things that we say time and time again on the show is that the subject is so vast and so diverse and so many structures that it's not something you can just quickly talk about. And I think today we just proved it again, is that it's so intense in the sense of how many avenues you could travel down in order to make someone or a brand successful to a target audience.
Definitely agree. It's an endless realm of topics and subtopics that we can talk about. So
next time we do this show, we'll just do 40 minutes. We'll just say we're talking about digital stuff, and then we'll just ramble on for 40 minutes and see how that goes.
But that was not the point of the show. You got to it's got 6 sides of color, 9 blocks a side, and you've got to twist and turn to get all the colors on the right side. That's exactly what digital marketing is all about.
Is that your new? You're gonna write a blog, the Rubik's Cube of digital marketing? You can write a book.
Have you not written it yet?
It's gone viral already. Man, Denver, that was an absolute pleasure. Your insights are so vast and so steeped in experience and knowledge, and you can tell the breadth of all the different types of businesses you've touched, and that you've interacted with them at different points in their digital journey. And I think that's one of the things that I saw through your experience and through the conversations that we've had so far, which made me go, man, I need to have this guy on the show. And I'm so happy we could tee this up and that you could join us today. Really appreciate your time and coming on the show.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. No, thanks for having me. It's been great. Like I said, the 7 minutes does go very quickly when we were chatting, especially about digital. So yeah, I can talk about this for hours.
I was just thinking, I never noticed how intimidating this clock could be for somebody. It's just sitting there like ticking away, and they're trying to think of things that they're supposed to be saying and trying to get the sound all eloquent. I'm like, this is a lot of pressure we just put on people. Throw them in the deep end. Guys, on that note, I will wrap up the show. It's been a phenomenal show. Again, Denver, thank you so much. Grant, as always, appreciate you being on the show. Please, everybody that's tuned in, follow, share. Please comment. Please write into us with either guests that you'd like to see on the show or subject matters that you'd like us to unbundle.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show.
If you'd like to be a guest on the show, or if there's something controversial, if you don't like the new the new Uber logo, just tell us what your thoughts are, and we'll unbundle it here on the show too. Grant, any last words, my friend?
I just think it's been a great honor having Denver, who with all that vast experience, especially from the media days into the digital days, in the sense of how we need to transpire into the tomorrow market. Thank you, Denver. It's been great having you to enlighten us in your world.
Thank you.
Man, I couldn't have said that any better. Everybody, thank you very much. Have a great Friday. Grab a couple drinks, get onto the balcony, have some fresh air, go for a walk. Friday. Happy Friday. Enjoy lockdown. I don't know. I feel like I ran out of stuff. See you later. Thanks a lot, everyone.